Yeah. Thanks. Well, I got my front since they're here. Yeah, they kept trying to. I didn't see the. Thanks, Dave. The, I think it's the worst play. I don't think there's yet. Good afternoon and welcome to the June 7, 2024 meeting of the Rotary Club of Beavercreek. Thanks to Mike Swig, Alex Saharia. I don't know, did Mike join in the greeting? He greeted inside. Okay, all right. I didn't know we had different classifications, but on the inside greeter Mike Swick, outside greeter Alex Saharia. Thanks to Eric for taking care of ticket master duties and standing in as the secretary. Thanks to Beth Handworker for setting up. Pete Bales, Mark Weinstein, Mike Zwick, thank you for the great programs as we see again today. And thanks to Jim Gundel for handling the website. I'd invite Denny Darby to come forward for an invitation for us, please. Well, good afternoon. Please bow your heads and ready for prayer. Oh God of the universe, since we are not conscious enough to fathom your ebb and flow, help us bring them to our best efforts of what we can know, to love our family and friends, to treat our employees and fellow workers fairly, to seek justice, to help those in need, to be the best that we can be, and to live by the four-way test. Of all things we think or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And will it be beneficial to all? Amen. Amen. All right. Secretary's report, Eric Marcus. Closes up and oh, there's another one right in the door. All right. I said, okay. We have 32 Beavercreek Rotarians today. You're 64%. We have a few guests. Shannon has his usual duo of guests. Brianna and Abby right here. Let's have the guest who bought us tickets. Yeah, my wife Beth, my wonderful wife Becca's here with us today, and she's across the way getting a drink, a Diet Coke. Welcome back up. Another guest in here, but I can't find him. That's it. So that's it. Okay, 64%. Pretty good for a June. Nice weather, June Friday. Yeah, I can go with that. All right. Now, your mayor and our sergeant at arms. He's looking at me surprised, which makes me worried. Don Adams. Just ad lib. Thank you, sir. Yeah. How you doing? Today is June 7th here. It's the 159th day of the year. No. I'll wait for everybody. You know, also I love the news. They go to twice and follow the morning. I'll wait for you guys to finish that conversation with them. Thank you. Well, there are 207 days left this year. Today we celebrate Daniel Boone Day, Junebug Day, National Chocolate Ice Cream Day, and in honor of our police department, National Donut Day, Trial Technology Day, and for some of you in here, you may not even know what this is, it's VCR Day. Ooh, I see. So that one. We also celebrate a few things this week that June 7th falls on. It's America the Beautiful Week, Bed Bug Awareness Week, and Mountain Top Recall Week.
Healthcare Executives Appreciation Week. Do we have any on? International Clothesline Week. Some of you in here may not remember what clotheslines are here. But we're all too well. National CPR and AED Awareness Week. National Fishing and Boating Week. National Garden Week. National Headache Awareness Week. Shampoo Week. And Teachers Thank You Week. Also in this day in history, in 1769, American frontiersman Daniel Boone ascended Pilot Knob, setting sight on the fertile hunting grounds of what is now known as the Bluegrass region of the state of Kentucky. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln was renominated for president by the Republican Party. That lasted, what, a year and a half, something like that. 65 was not a good year for him. 1875, the California Rifle and Pistol Association was founded. That's still in effect. They're banned on guns out there. So, in 1912, the U.S. Army tested its first machine gun mount on an airplane. And I have pictures of that because it was a Ray B. Flyer, and the guy was sitting there holding it on a little Swiss around. It was kind of interesting. 1929, Vatican City became a sovereign state. In 1936, Charles Lucky Luciano is convicted on 62 counts of compulsory prostitution. In 1942, the Battle of Midway ended when Admiral Chester Nimitz won his first World War II defeat, or he scored his first World War II defeat of Japan. In 1942, the U.S. Yorktown sank near Midway. In 1968, for those people remember, Sirhan was indicted for the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy. 1982, Ridgeline was opened to the public for the first time. In 1989, Wayne Gretzky scored his 9th NHL MVP trophy in 10 years. He had a famous saying: "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And in 1994, A's outfielder Ricky Henderson stole his 1,100th career base. He still holds the record with 1,406. And looking around the world, this should be some people. In 2017, police warned bald men against attacks in Mozambique after 5 men were murdered with the gold believed to be in their heads. The gold. No. Just bald heads. We have to explain them. Happenings at our club this week or over the last week. We had a birthday. Charles Kern, here, June 1st. I'll let Charles tell you how old he is. Yeah, right. Brian Rushing actually celebrates his birthday tomorrow. Member anniversary, Aaron Marcus has 20 years with Beavercreek and 16 years with another club somewhere. So a total of 36 years. We have a couple of wedding anniversaries. Dave Happy and his wife Deborah, 55 years. Andrew Hunt and his wife Krista, 24 years. And Mark Weinstein and his wife Lisa, 33 years. So happy anniversary. Some interesting facts that I came up about the Cold War. And some of you here also may not know what the Cold War was, but that's okay. I remember it. In September of 1959, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev embarked on a state visit of the United States, but it didn't take him long to start complaining. Initially, while visiting the agriculture experimental station in Maryland, he allegedly complained that the pigs were too fat and the turkeys were too small. A few days later, he was touring the 20th Century Fox Studios and had a prickly argument with the studio head about communism. His anger peaked though when he was told he would not be allowed to go to Disneyland. Said, I would very much like to go see Disneyland, but then we cannot guarantee your security, they say. Then what must I do? Commit suicide? What is it? Is there an epidemic of cholera there or something? Was so upset he left next day. And if it weren't for Stanislav Petrov during the Cold War, and potentially the trajectory of human life on Earth could have come to a devastating end. Petrov, a lieutenant colonel in the Soviet Air Defense Forces, was on duty September 26, 1983, when his early warning satellite system detected what appeared to be 5 approaching U.S. nuclear-armed intercontinental ballistic missiles. Had he followed the Soviet military protocol and reported the incoming American strike, he likely would have set in motion a full nuclear retaliation. Instead, he said if the United States was doing that, they would send a whole lot more than 5. And it turned out that he was right. It was actually Soviet satellite warning system confusing the sun's reflection on clouds as incoming missiles. Always pay attention. And there was a couple of myths that have been debunked. One of them is a long time ago, studies suggested that coffee could cause osteoporosis, a condition that causes bones to lose density. So the myth was that coffee could stunt your growth. I drank coffee all my life. Didn't work. There was a software design meeting, and we were using typical technical jargon to discuss a data exchange interface with the vendor. One coworker said the programming we had ordered was delayed because the vendor was suffering from a severe nonlinear waterfall issue. Curious, the team leader raised his eyebrows and asked, "What exactly is that?" The programmer replied, "They don't have all their ducks in a row." Then how do you get to heaven? Teacher was asking, this is school, a Sunday school teacher said, if I sold my house and my car at a big garage sale and gave all of my money to the church, would that get me to heaven? No, the children answered. Said, if I cleaned out the church every day, mowed the yard, and kept everything neat and tidy, would that get me into heaven? No, replied the kids. And when I asked them again, if I was kind to animals and gave candy to all the children and loved my wife, would that get me into heaven? No, replied the children. Well, she continued, thinking they were a good bit more theologically sophisticated than I had given them credit for. I said, how then do you get to heaven? A 5-year-old boy in the back shouted, you got to be dead. And then was lady's husband pushing a service technician for a large exterminating company. One of the rules of the company is that he has to confirm each appointment by phone the night before his service call to that household. One evening, he made such a call, and when the man answered the phone, he said, "Hi, this is Gary from A to Z Pest Control Company. Your wife phoned us." There was a long silence, and then the husband said, and he heard the husband say to the wife on the other side, "Honey, it's for you. Someone else to talk to you about your relatives." And then there was a wife that accused her husband that he put football before their marriage. He said, "That's not true. After all, this is our 4th season together." I'm sorry. There was a new blonde employee called to help desk to complain that there's something wrong with their password. No, it's not the usual cat locks problem. The problem is that whenever I type the password, it just shows stars. Those are asterisks. They're there to protect you, the help desk said. So if someone is standing behind you, they wouldn't be able to read your password. But she said, yeah, I understand that, but they show up when nobody's standing behind me. Yeah, let's talk about stress. You stop and pick up a hitchhiking girl. Suddenly, she loses consciousness and you take her to the hospital. That's stress. In the hospital, you're being told that she is pregnant, and the doctors start congratulating you with your future newborn baby. You explain, just an hour ago, you met this lady. But she starts telling everybody you're the father. That's big stress. You ask for a DNA test and they do it. Then the doctors tell you quietly that actually you can't be the father since you are genetically sterile. This is stress combined with relief. On your way home, you remember you have 3 kids. This is real stress. As always, I want to leave you with a couple inspirational quotes. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. And thousands of candles can be lit for one single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Today's finds. You got money. If you got a donut last week, that's $1. If you've ever bought clothes on a clothesline, that's $1. If you've ever been fishing, that's $1. If you ever watched Daniel Boone on television, that's $1. If you drink coffee, that's $1. And if you're not wearing your Rotary pin, that's $1. David.
Thank you, Don, I think. Cracked on blondes and bald people that hurt our table significantly. So, who's got a happy butt? Okay.
Brad and I have actually booked us. We're leaving next Thursday. We're leaving Japan.
Huh?
Old Sam Danley.
Awesome. All right.
So you grandchild.
Terry.
I have a bunch of happy butts. I think the first is I'm really happy to be back at Rotary after my bout with COVID. Even though I've had all my shots, it still kicked my butt. So make sure you get all your shots anyway. The second is sometimes since my last attendance at Rotary and today, my daughter-in-law had a 6-pound, 9-ounce baby granddaughter named Matilda Jane. The Jane after my recently deceased mother-in-law. And she's doing great. And the third is yesterday I got to take my grandson solo to a dragon game. And we successfully made it through the potty, so we didn't have any issues.
Get done without that cheering. Elizabeth?
So on June 21st, we'd like to invite all of you to the Beavercreek Community Library in partnership with the Beavercreek Township. We will be rededicating the community library to rename it the Carol Brass Beavercreek Library. So if you guys can all join us on the 21st at 4 o'clock.
Other happy bugs.
Brad, have a happy butt. Actually, Becca does. Yesterday was the 80th anniversary of D-Day. We have many vets in this room that can really appreciate that, and all the civilians, all those 20-year-olds that were on boats, ships, planes yesterday, 80 years ago, not knowing that they were going to return, going there to do what was right for our country. So, and I really appreciated all the posts on the internet. People are really starting to understand that and be patriotic and respect those folks. So thank you all.
Thank you, Rick. Other happy bugs. Any announcements? Yes, sir.
I just sent out to those of you who have not yet paid your dues for the quarter, a reminder to please pay your dues by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 3rd. Please, it makes it a lot easier on Carrie when she does the books. Jackie's B is cruel, and we file our tax return cash, which means she needs to make the adjustments to make it work, which is a lot of extra work on her. If everybody's account is 0, it's easier. Also, for those of you who use credit cards or don't yet, as of May 1st, we're no longer charging credit card fees. So your dues will be in, and the club's going to eat the credit card fee for you going forward. We discussed it and we decided that that was a good way to go, that the club can afford the extra couple $100 a year in credit card fees for the convenience of our membership and how fast I get paid.
Any other announcements? Okay, ticket drawing, as you know, half of the proceeds goes to our Christmas basket project. For the chance to draw for the Queen of Hearts, you need to have ticket number 339699.
I like that.
I was actually, well, so, Aaron, it is too. That's for Mike.
Getting paid and I gave some.
Well, fine, it was still better than coach me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a joke.
Joker,
Yeah.
Mike, as you're coming out to introduce our speaker, thank you for donating an extra $5.
Yeah, to pick it up for.
This is
Teamwork, we didn't, we should, oh no, I would really just. So we get Don's pretty quick here, yeah, but
That's right.
I was on the lost children.
At least you're a little lighter on your makeup. That was rude.
Life is cruel. I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Robert Young. He is the NASIC historian. He and I have been friends for years and never met till today. We have been in the same places at the same time for our careers, I think. Rob was the Air Force historian at the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. After 28 years working as a scientific and technical intelligence historian, Rob offers unique insight into the history of U.S. intelligence efforts, especially the aircraft and weapon system brought here to study over the past 107 years. Rob served as the historian at Maxwell Air Force Base, and he was the deputy historian at Air University, and I was there. He also served 28 years in the Air Force and Air Force Reserve, retiring as a lieutenant colonel in 2014. After earning a master's degree in history at a Strategic Air Command, Minuteman II Combat Crew Commander, he served the rest of his career as a historical officer. As such, he deployed to Turkey and Iraq after Desert Storm and Kandahar in Afghanistan during freedom. He worked as a reservist for the Material Command History Office for over 18 years. He is known for his intelligence-focused tours of the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force. Rob is married to the love of his wife and has 6 grandchildren and 19 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
Rob,
All right.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move this thing a little bit because I think you guys are getting the short end of the stick. So let me just scoot this guy like that. You guys can still see. All right, so thank you. I guess I better talk into this thing so people out there in Zoom world can see and hear what I'm saying. Yeah, so yeah, Rob Young, historian at NASIC. Just happy to be here. I do have a passion for the cool stuff that's in the museum. I love it all, and I love history. But the thing that I'm good at is the bad guy stuff. Always have been. You know, I was that guy. I was that guy. I did my master's thesis on the North Vietnamese MiG-21. So I feel very comfortable talking about stuff like this. And there we go. So yeah, it works. So we're gonna basically go through the museum right quick, and I'm gonna tell you some of the cool stuff about the assets that are in the museum and some of the stories that go along with them. Okay, so when it comes right down to it, bad guy airplanes, German, World War I. you go in there, only one of them is real. Okay, when I say that, in all fairness, there are no more Fokker DR1s. The triplane, the Red Baron plane, there are no more. They are all gone. And there's only one Fokker D7, the purple job over there. There's only one in the country, and it's in the National Air and Space Museum. So we have one here, the Halberstadt, this one right here, the funky striped one. That's a real one. That's World War One German, combat aircraft. That thing was actually one of three purchased by a German ace after World War One. When he was going to make an air service, he was going to build like basically an aviation company. So he buys three of them. They end up going into long storage, and I mean long storage. Ultimately, he tried to fix them in the 50s and then they get sold. And it's not until the 80s that National Air and Space Museum, National Museum, US Air Force, and it's the Germans, right? So over there, it's like Deutsches Museum. They decide, let's just restore them. Okay, Germany, you're the experts, you restore them, we're gonna pay, and we each get one. And that's what happened. So that aircraft that you look at when you go into the museum, that's the real one. The other, but they don't have a story where that one does. Okay, so you walk into World War II gallery, you're gonna look up, go see a little helicopter up there. Folks, it's not a helicopter, it's a kite. So it's a kite that would be used on the back of a German Type 9 U-boat because it had to be Type 9, it was the fastest on the surface. And you would put little Hans on this thing like that, and you would send him aloft. I say little Hans because it ain't going to be big Hans, right? No way. So you'd have to put little Hans, you needed 17 knots of combined headway and wind, right, to keep little Hans in the air. So you would send him up about 400 feet, and he can see with good optics, he can see about 25 miles. And so that thing is used to spot for the U-boat. The interesting thing is they built 200 of them. Only one it ever worked. I know, August 1943, U-177 actually put up little Hans, and he's like, oh, there's a freighter over there. And they sank a freighter, and yay, it worked. So what the heck is this thing doing here? Look at this. And if you go into the museum, you look at the tail, it says T24617. Guess what? And you're going to learn a lot more about this. Who's T2? NASIC is T2. What that is, okay, so for most of the war, they had a laboratory, but then Air Technical Service Command was created. And in case you hadn't figured this out, A2, S2, G2, always a -2 is intelligence. So technical intelligence, T2. So we were called T2 intelligence, and we studied these things. You know what we did with that little Fokker Gillis 330? We put it behind a truck and we sent it down, down the right field, down the runway. And pretty soon, the guy who's up there, little Hans, is yelling, or it would be little Fred. Anyway, he's yelling down. He realizes what's coming, the end of the runway. And they're driving like crazy to keep him up. And he sees the end of the runway, so he starts yelling, "Get me down, get me down." And so they crank him in. He didn't want to auto rotate in that. And so the thing is, but it's in the museum today. It was tested like right where you're standing, which is kind of cool. All right, so Japanese Zero. You walk around the corner, there's a Japanese Zero. It's an A6M2 Type 21 Japanese real deal Zero. Now, the museum, bless their hearts, they love me because I'm the guy that will tell them, you got it wrong. And so, honestly, 20 years ago, they didn't know what that aircraft looked like, right? But a photo of it has popped up and dun, dun, dun. It was green. It wasn't, it wasn't that light color that they have it painted as, but no, it was green. And it was a Cubby airfield, in Papua New Guinea, okay? And so there it sits. So that is the museum's airplane. And it was built in Nakajima aircraft in September of 1943. And it's a combat veteran. And there it sits, it's all shot to pieces. But it was recovered and was ultimately restored, put on display about 20 years ago. So when you see that aircraft, that's a cool airplane. It really is. Okay, the Italian job that's in the museum. On the other side of the B-24, there's a Mach-E MC-200. The thing about this airplane, and what's cool, is it was captured in North Africa by the British, captured at Benghazi during or after the Battle of El Alamein. And so it's captured, it's brought back here. Guess what? We don't have any requirements against this thing. It's like, it's kind of a piece of crap. We don't care. And so it ended up going on a war tour. Yeah, I tell young people, let's put it out there with Captain America and the Nancy girl. And so the thing is, you put a sign on it that says Italian fighter captured in North Africa by war bonds. Right. And so this ended up being a war bond tour highlight. And so there she is right there. Ended up, it was in private hands for a good amount of time. Ended up in the museum, years ago. And so, yeah, that's a real combat plane from North Africa, real Italian job. So now this is one where the museum just loves me. They, they brought this aircraft home at the end of World War II. I will be honest with you guys. This thing flew with JG-52. If any of you are big buffs, you understand Jagdgeschwader Zweigenfußig was it was the number one killing unit in history. In history. The top of the world. The top, of course, they're all Germans, and they flew with JG-52. So it's kind of funny. We have a JG-52 airplane, but because they didn't know what it looked like, they painted it as a JG-300 plane. And so that's what it's painted as today when it surrendered at Neuenberg Neuenberg Air Base outside of Munich. That's what it looked like. So I'm that guy that says if we were going to do this right, and it's a real German fighter, right? It should look like that. So anyway, what's cool to see this video? It was in basically a lot. This guy bought it he bought it because it was kind of cool. I'll restore it someday. So it ended up looking pretty bad until the right people got a hold of it, restored it, but they didn't know what it was painted as. So that's why the museum, they did the best they could 20 years ago. And so they painted it as that. It looked like that. Okay, so let's see what time it is. All right, so this is one of my favorites. What does an Air Force historian do during COVID? Right now, this is the problem. What does a top secret code word historian do during COVID? Because that's what I write about top secret stuff normally. So I love this airplane, the Yonkers Ju-88. This is our plane, that is T215. And so I wrote a whole study about this airplane. Why is this thing so cool? Well, it was built for the Luftwaffe, built for the Germans, and then it was given to the Romanians. No, Romanians, World War II, bad guys. Yeah, Romanians were bad guys. So this thing was painted. And if you ever go to the museum and you wonder what the heck is that right there? Well, that's Romanian/German markings. Okay, I just had some Romanians in the museum, and they've already taken all kinds of pictures with this thing. Because that's not what they use anymore. And it's got a big cross in it. And it's in Germany. But this thing, as it says there, it was based at Mariupol, Ukraine. Yeah, which has been in the news big time the last few years. And so this thing's flying for the bad guys, flying against the Soviets, who of course were the good guys back in those days. And so one day that Romanian pilot's like, I've had enough. I'm out of here. He flies, guys, he flies to Cyprus from Ukraine. He flies to Cyprus. The British are more than happy to welcome him with a couple of Hurricane fighters, and they escort him in. And the Brits fly the thing for, well, it's really July to October '83. And the Brits are done with it. And they're like, you guys like this airplane? And so we are like, yes, no problem. It's in Cairo. So what do? It's got to get to where, folks? Dayton, Ohio. It's in Cairo. What do? You ask for volunteers. Anybody want to fly this airplane to Dayton, Ohio from Cairo? And you get two B-25 combat veteran pilots who actually had backgrounds in engineering. They were like, we'll do it. So first of all, you got to declassify it all the way across the world. You got to tell everybody a German bomber in American colors is coming. And so they fly it. Picture this. They fly it from Cairo to Sudan, Sudan to Nigeria, Nigeria to Sierra Leone, Sierra Leone down to Ascension Island in the middle of the South Atlantic, back up to Natal, Brazil, to Belém, Brazil, up to British Guyana, over to Puerto Rico, over to West Palm Beach, California, West the people in Florida would be horrified. I said that. West Palm Beach, Florida. Oh, by the way, when it crossed the coast, 3 old ladies called it in. Yeah, 3 old ladies with their binoculars. I've got a German Ju-88 at 12. Yeah, they called it in. And then, of course, from West Palm Beach to Dayton. It flew here. This airplane flew in the sky. It's right here. So this is our airplane. We love this plane. Okay, so this is a rocket plane, right? It goes 600 miles an hour. This is a Messerschmitt ME-163B. This is captured by the British. And this is a Canuck. Okay, this airplane operated well. It was up in Canada. It was a State Guard. It had it actually in front of a Canadian Air Base. And we ended up getting it back in the 80s, kept it for a while, then gave it back, then we got it back. And so this is actually a real. Now, I don't know if it ever saw combat. If you know the story behind this airplane, it has a couple things wrong with it, and they believe it was done by slave laborers, French, because it has some French written on the inside. You know, probably not very nice things about Germans, but the thing is, I'm not sure this thing ever flew, but it's cool. Yeah. One of the best planes we have is the Focke-Wulf FW-190 D9. Okay, that was the best version. There were guys, Americans that flew it. They claimed it was the best fighter of World War II, best propeller fighter of World War II. And our beautiful one that's on display is exactly correct. So that's what I can't complain about. You know, you say this. So how did we get all these stinking German planes home? We had these teams that gathered them up. Watson's Wizards were the guys that gathered up the jets, and Watson's Fan Club were the ones that gathered the propeller planes, and they put them on. Of course they did. A British aircraft carrier named the HMS Reaper. So they loaded up the deck with, they had to cocoon them because of the sea air. They didn't want them to rust the rest of their lives. So they cocooned them, they put them on a deck, and they shipped them to the United States. And guess what? The National Museum of the U.S. Air Force has 3 that were on that deck. Well, what's cool is so the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force has 3. The National Air and Space Museum, if you go into Udvar-Hazy, the annex in Maryland, look at that. All of these aircraft right there were all on that deck. So it's kind of and of course, my unit, T2 intelligence at the time, we were the ones in charge of doing all this, and that's why they named it. They, if you go to the National Air and Space Museum today, the zero that's in there, that's T2130. It flew right here. The 109, or excuse me, yeah, the BF 109, the German fighter, T2496. So it flew right here. And so many of the bad guy airplanes that are on display across our country from Dayton, they actually were studied here in Dayton, including this one. This is one of my favorites. So this is Watson. He's our hero. Everything at Basic is named after him. Watson Award. Our address is Watson Way, Watson, Watson Hall. So we have everything named after Watson. He commended us twice over the years. But what's cool is the pictures of him in front of this airplane. Right here, this is a combat veteran, Messerschmitt ME-262, the world's first operational jet fighter. Okay, so this is one of Watson's Wizards aircraft. I don't have time. We gathered about 10, and we got him over to America. Okay, on that ship, on that British aircraft carrier. Well, there's Hal, and he's standing there. He's standing in front of that ME-262. Guess what? That's the one in the museum. That is the one that we own today, and it's not painted right. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, I was able to prove this. I have proof. Anyway, so that's it right there. We have to be flown by Americans, and but that is what it looked like when it's flying towards the Luftwaffe in combat. And of course, there it is today. Honestly, guys, they restored it in the late 80s, or excuse me, late 70s, and they didn't know. They painted it as a generic aircraft because they didn't know its story. So a lot of the stuff that I'm coming up with, it's just fair. They just didn't know. But if I had a little money, I would probably throw it at, put the right paint job on it. Because honestly, that is what our jet looked like in combat. And so that's true with so many of those aircraft. Okay, so all right, so what time do I have to be done? What's my top 5 still? Oh, I got to. All right, here we go. Japanese aircraft, name it behind the B-29. Get this. This was in a kid's playground in San Diego, California. And they're like, it was brought home, and then kids were playing on it. It was like a really funky jungle gym. Anyway, the thing is, the aircraft was restored and was, and here it is. We've had it on display for years. Okay, let's get to jets. The MiG-15, MiG, it's an acronym. It stands for Mikoyan E. Guryevich. So there are two guys, Mikoyan and E, little I, Guryevich. So it's always spelled big M, little I, big G. Okay, don't put a little g on there and it's well. All right, so thing is, this jet, it's in our museum, it defected, the pilot defected in September 1953. He ended up being my dear friend. I've known Ken Rowe for like 30 years. I helped him research for his book years and years ago. And so Ken and I we just hit it off. We got to be friends. So he's eating pizza at my house with my kids, and so my kids know him. He died about a year and a half ago. He was 90. So sadly, he passed away. But we brought that aircraft here after the fact because the North Koreans didn't ask for it back. Idiots, right? Because what about pilots without defect? And so, yeah, they wouldn't admit that one of their guys defected to the South. And so, well, they're not going to ask it back. It didn't happen. So we kept it. How stupid is this? So we kept it and we just blew the devil out of this thing. And then we let a Brit fly it. Look at that. He tore that nose gear off of it. And that's actually a picture of the hole right there. That's still under there. I'm crawling under this jet, trust me. And so I tell people, so what? We got a hold of the bad guy's jet, #1 threat aircraft. Get a hold of it, get this. We did all of our magic, all our engineers. I'm surrounded by engineers. So they did all of their magic to it. And they realized before we ever got a hold of it, we had done an assessment. This is what we think it'll do. Now we know its characteristics and performance. Get this, that original assessment was 98% correct. So what this jet did is it validated our methodology, basically saying, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So that was really important. And there he is. I got him right on a big 50. Yeah, I had a buddy that had a big 50. He took him up and he calls me. He's like, I could do this again. I could do it. It came right back to me, like riding a bike. And so here he got to be a big pilot. It's really cool. Okay, so X-17, it's in the museum. It was actually made for East Germany back in 1957. Then in 1967, something really bad happened to all the Arab nations that tried to take on Israel. And their air forces got clobbered. And so the East Germans sent this little bad boy to Egypt. So it became an Egyptian MiG-17. So I do a lot of high-level tours. I do intelligence tours in the museum. I do it for a lot of generals, a lot of senior civilians. I've taken all kinds of bigwigs, astronauts, and anyway, I won't go into all that. But taking a lot of big wigs through there. I've got an Israeli fighter. He is their A2, but he goes on to be the commander of the Israel Air Force. And so while he's the A2, we're standing there. He's F4, F16, long F everything. And so we're standing there. We're looking at this jet, and I go, so this thing's painted Vietnamese, but it's not Vietnamese. It's Egyptian. And he goes, oh, really? And I said, I wonder if you guys ever came up against this one. And he looked at me and goes, if we did, it wouldn't be here. Fighter pilots are the same. They're the same wherever they are on the planet. And I love that story. Okay, so MiG-21, this is actually a Hungarian version. Yeah, this thing was built in 64 for Hungary. And it operated with the Hungarian Air Force until about 1986. And then in 1988, it ended up coming to America. And so there she is. We have it painted like the Vietnamese jet, which I love. I did my master's thesis on those things. But so that's where that one came from. Now, MiG-19, we believe it came from Egypt. But it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not exactly sure where this thing came from. It showed up on the doorstep one day. All right, so the MiG-23 that's in there, the cool thing about that aircraft, it's one of the aggressor aircraft. It is one of the Constant Peg. Constant Peg was the code name of the aggressor squadron operating out of Tonopah, Nevada in 1977 and 1988. So we typically operate about half a dozen of these. We operate about 20 MiG-1s, and this is one of them. This aircraft, according to open source, I was say that this is a picture of it. It flew for the Egyptian Air Force. So it flew for Egypt, ended up coming over here and being a really scary airplane in some ways. She's super fast, but she's really a very tricky airplane to fly. And I learned this one time. I was talking to a Polish MiG-23 pilot, and he looked at me and he goes, flying MiG-23 is like making love to Tiger. Very dangerous and not very satisfying. So, anyway, okay. All right, MiG-29. I know this airplane intimately. I have put so many big wigs in this thing. This thing was in Nasik hangar for years. And this is one of the Moldovan jets. There were 21 of them that were purchased from the Republic of Moldova in 1997. I actually helped load them in the middle of the night, which was really cool. And this jet actually was one of the first MiG-29s the West ever saw in Finland in 1986. And there she is right there. So that jet is that jet. And it's just really kind of special. So I can tell you all kinds of things about MiG-29. I'm not, because I don't have time. But anyway, this is the big boy. This is Big Blue right here. This is a Sukhoi Su-27UB. So this particular aircraft was built by the Soviet Union for the Soviet Navy in 1988. It was sent to the 100th Shipborne Fighter Aviation Regiment in Crimea. And there it was when, lo and behold, Ukraine broke away and the Russians never got their jet back. So this became a Ukrainian jet after being a Soviet jet, operated, with the 831st Fighter Aviation Regiment. Then in 2008, there were these guys in this company called Terra Alliance. If you go in and look at the plane, it has a big T on the tail. That's not TAC Air, guys. This thing was never going to be a tactical, like a fly and fight, kind of thing. No, this is a $25,000 per hour business jet, is what this is. So thing is, this company was going to use it to find oil. Terra Alliance had this pod that they believed, multispectral, that they believed could find oil reserves. So they decided to try to do it with the Gulf Air. It's too expensive. The FAA had a lot of problems with that. And then they purchased these from Ukraine. They're experimental, right? You hang whatever you want to on it. They're experimental. And so they spent about $22 million and they bought two of these things. They're going to fly them to find oil, right? Black gold, Texas too. And so, there's this, Jed Clampett was going to fly this thing. And so the problem is that when they got in here, they built them up, pod didn't work. So this company is stuck with them. Pride Aviation over in Rockford, Illinois, they're the ones that built them up, flew them. One really funny thing, they showed up with the cannons. Oh, no. They're not supposed to have guns. No, not huge guns, right? 30mm automatic full auto cannons. And so they're about all the back and firearms are going, right? And they're nascent guys, they're laughing. They couldn't believe this. And so they asked Ukrainian, the Ukrainian guy goes, these guys like guns. We figured they would like them. So we sent them. And it's like, no. Don't send the guns. So the ATF took the guns out, also took out, customs took out all the booze. There was a ton of liquor on these airplanes. And the ammo box for those guns filled with beer bottles, trust me. All right, so the thing is, these things ended up just being for sale. Please, anybody buy them. U.S. Air Force bought them, put them in storage, and now we own 3-2. You just got to see it. If you've ever been an airplane geek, you got to see it. It's so huge. So this is the job. We're National Airspace Intelligence Center where I work. We're the ones that assess foreign air and space. We have National Space Intelligence Center now that does most of the space analysis, but we do everything associated with that thing because that's a system of systems. Whether it's the weapons, whether it's the radar. So we do everything that's involved with that. And I don't know if I'll have time for questions. I don't know. It's 5 till, so my timing is good. If anybody's got any questions, please let me know. That's all I have. Oh, yes.
But you get all this experimental stuff, so when are you gonna put all those UFO spacecraft on display?
I can neither confirm nor deny. Honestly, I'll be honest with you guys. I worked for 29 years. I've never seen anything that shocked me. Never. I've never had anybody go, "Oh, you should have seen the alien autopsy." I'm the guy that found a member of the Blue Fly team. And he was 93 years old. I'm talking to this guy. I always had lung cancer or something. And we're talking. And I go, "Did you ever pick up a UFO?" And he goes, "I think I did." What a goddamn person. And so, there I go. I was all excited. And so, no, my own mother and brother saw a UFO. I wasn't home, but my mom and brother saw it. So I've had UFOs up to here a long time in my life. But no, I just haven't had the cool experiences like some people have. So that's all I have. Anyway, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
jet outside of NASIC, is that still out there? I know there was issues with the new building going up.
Oh, he's moved it.
They just moved it.
So that was a two-seater Moldovan MiGs. That was the one that was two-seater. I have to tell you guys this story since you're making me go on. The thing is, it had writings on it. This was their beloved trainer, their top American scholar. And so they've written in Cyrillic cursive on the inlet. I couldn't read it. I could get a translator to come over, and this is what it said. And American fighter pilots love this. So this is when they're losing their favorite airplane. It says, "Farewell, old girl. You were our wet nurse." So of course, American pilots are like, "Oh my God, it's typical Russian sentiment, you know, and say you were our wet nurse." And Americans are like, so anyway, that's the difference between Americans and Russians.
Thank you so much. As it has become our custom, we are going to donate a book in Rob's honor to the Greene County Community Library.
It's on engineering.
Engineering in plain sight. So no UFOs. Okay, so as we rise for the pledge, I will tell you that next week's program is Tim Beek from St. Mary Development Court. Bob Kachoy and Dave Brandenburg are our greeters. Keep an eye on upcoming programs at beavercreekrotary.com and Facebook. And if nobody has anything else for the good of the club, we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, with liberty and justice. Everyone have a great week. Thank you. Mr. Got a lot from the shoulder. I know we blood in what's all. Stop. And spit it out. So can I? What I can do, like, it's the big. He's stuck. He's taking a hard to you wonder if you know, it's all funny. That, yeah, I can go back to the. I'll tell you, all this came when you break. I'll be. I can just, I mean, talk, the kid. What's it? And doesn't know what to do to me, anything for nothing. But Christ have here, she has one of the actual was a like one. It's not the because the one one. It's just fire game. It's seven with seen times. Working to the scope when it's not going to be. I'm in the five. And we kind of very good,